equation.
Or you could call this an addition equation because it has an addition.
Variable.
Variable is always a letter that takes the place of a number.
Subtraction. Chart.
All right.
How can you use addition and subtraction to solve equations? Think about this question during the lesson. The chart shows the members of Congress in 2005. Congress is made of the U.S. Senate and U.S. House of Representatives. In January 2005, there were 83 women in Congress. How many women were serving in the U.S. Senate? Let's write an equation to solve this problem. An equation is a number sentence that uses an equal sign to show that two expressions have the same value. What addition equation can you write to find the total number of women serving in the U.S. Senate? Let's find out. What do you know about the number of women in the U.S. Senate?
What did they tell us earlier about the number of women? How many, Brody?
83.
There has to be 83 women. There has to be 83 women total in Congress. So we know that there are 69 women in the House of Representatives. If we know Congress is made up of the Senate and the House of Representatives, the two combined. Altogether, we have to have 83 women. We know how many are in the House of Representatives. So can we figure out how many are in the Congress, how many are in the Senate? Yes, we can. Hello? There.
You know that when you add the number of women in the U.S. Senate to 69, you get 83.
So some number, x, plus 69 equals 83. Now the 83 is not shown on here. If you were listening, they said it on a previous slide that there are 83 women total in Congress. Yes, Corinne? Okay.
What do you need to add to find the total number of women in Congress? You should add the number of women in the Senate and in the House of Representatives to find the total number of women in Congress. What was the number of women in the Senate?
And Corinne, what did you tell us?
14.
The number of women in the Senate was unknown.
Okay.
Let X equal the number of women in the Senate. What was the number of women in the House of Representatives? There were 69 women in the House of Representatives. What was the total number of women in Congress? There were 83 women in Congress.
So you're asking yourself what number plus 69 equals 83?
This is a diagram of the equation containing the variable x. What does this model represent? It shows the total number of women in Congress, 83, the number of women in the House of Representatives, 69, and the number of women in the Senate, which is represented by the variable x.
Now, look at this here diagram that they show. Now, Corinne tells us 14. She has come up with that. I could guess and check some numbers by plugging in some values in for x until I get it to work out that some number plus 69 equals 83. But looking at this diagram, how could I find out the value for x? Grace?
83 minus 69.
Work backwards. This is an addition problem. Work backwards and do subtraction. 83 minus 69 to get x. Then I'll know for certain. I'm sorry.
To begin to solve the equation, isolate the variable. How do you isolate x?
Isolate means to get it by itself.
You subtract 69 from both sides of the equation. The quantities on each side of the equal sign are still equal.
Okay, now think about this. I'm going to do some examples later. It's going to be a little more clear. I'll show you how you should have it written. But when we saw this picture, it was easy for us to see 83 minus 69 to figure out what x is. When it is shown to you as an equation like this, an addition equation, x plus 69 equals 83. We want to know what x equals. You know when you're done because it's going to say x equals whatever. Okay? So, if our equation was x plus 69, I'm going to write it over here on the board, equals 83. I want to isolate the variable. That means get it by itself. You do that by working backwards. This says plus 69. I'm going to minus 69. If I had 69 minus 69, that is 0. It's gone. What you do to one side of the equal side, you must do to the other. So I'm going to say also minus 69 over here. All I have left here is x equals, and then when I subtract, I get 14. X equals 14. You're working backwards. I don't know why the video is delayed,
Why must you subtract the same number from each side of the equation? You must subtract the same number from each side to maintain balance of the equation. Begin by subtracting 69 from the left side of the equation.
Now, I did that exact same thing. The reason mine looks different from theirs is I wrote it underneath. Minus 69, minus 69. They're writing it to the side. I've always been taught and would prefer you to write it underneath. It just keeps your work way more clear and organized. Yes?
Couldn't you just take 89 minus 63 and not do all the other ones?
83 minus 69.
Minus 69.
Well, Abby, for this, I get what you're saying. Wouldn't you just know that in your head? You're right. But your problems are going to become more complex than just this. And as you get older, the reason why we teach you to do it this way now is as you get older, there might not be just one variable in your expression. And it might not be just one step, addition. You might have addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication in one long equation with an x and a y and an r with 3 variables, and you have to find out what each one is. And even though that's a long process, okay, and even though it may not be something you do until you are in 8th grade or a freshman or whatever, which you will get some that are more deeper as we go on in math. But the way that the whole basis of it is right here. You solve them the same way by working backwards.
Now, subtract 69 from the right side of the equation. What does x equal? 83 minus 69 equals 14. So, x equals 14. There were 14 women serving in the U.S. Senate in January 2005. Now you know how to solve addition equations.
All right, guided practice in your book. All right, shouldn't be so much talking. Open up your book, 15-1, guided practice. Thank you, Alex. Alex says 376, 377.
I think I just swallowed.
All right, so the first one, number 1, x minus 45 equals 90. We're going to isolate the variable, means get it by itself. By doing what, Brody? How do we get that variable by itself? It already is minus, so what are we going to do? Add. The way, guys, I'm going to show you this way, and this is how I expect it to be done on in your work when you do your assignment, okay? You're going to write the problem. X minus 45 equals 90, the way it is written right now. Where the equal sign is, I want you to put a line. Kind of like dividing the two sides. We need to get the x by itself. This says to subtract 45, so we're going to add 45. So underneath it, I'm going to put plus 45. And what I do to one side, I do to the other. Plus 45. This 45 over here is now gone. This may be a little deep here for some, but I want to say this is gone because do you see this minus in front of that? That means like negative in the whole. I always say negative is in the whole, like you owe it. Like here it says negative $45. If you owe somebody $45, you're in the whole $45, and then you pay them back $45, do you owe them anything now? No, you're at zero, you're clean, it's done, it's gone. Okay? That's why when there's a plus in front of that, that means positive 45. If it would say plus 45, you would say minus 45, because that's like you had $45, and then you just lost $45. So then it's gone. You're at zero.
Inverse operation.
Mm-hmm. You're right. Inverse operations means opposite operations. Very good. So now I put my long equal sign underneath. So I get x equals 135. How could I check this? Grace?
Add 4, and then subtract 135.
Yeah, so you can check to see if you're correct by this says. I just figured out what x is. I believe it's 135. So if I plug it into the original equation, which was, if I plug it in for x, 135 minus 45, I should get 90. And I do. If not, then I messed up and I need to go back. Okay. Next one. N plus 23 4/10 equals 36 9/10. Don't let the decimal throw you off. You work them out the exact same way. So I write my entire problem out the way it's written. N plus 23.4 equals 36.9, 36 9/10. I draw my line down the middle where the equal sign is, dividing the two. This says plus 23.4, so what am I going to do, Claire? Subtract 23.4 from each side. Minus 23.4, minus 23.4. I'm very neat in my work because this has decimals. I need to make sure they're lined up. So this was like saying positive 23.4, like I had 23.4 and then I lost it. So now it's gone. So I draw a line through it. It's gone. It's eliminated. I draw my long equal sign underneath. Now all I'm left with on the left-hand side is n equals, and subtract on the right. 9 minus 4 is 5, decimal point. 6 minus 3 is 3, and 3 minus 2 is 1. N equals 13 5/10. Yes?
So that's pretty much exactly what I said earlier. You just did that step. Because you said you didn't have a 22.4, you did a minus 22.4.
You're right.
Okay.
But what I'm saying, Abby, it's the exact thing you're saying,
Okay.
but you have to show it this way because sometimes it's not just going to be n plus 23.4. It might be n plus a plus 23.4 equals, or n plus 2 divided by 4 times 3 plus r equals. And the way that you solve them is just by doing the inverse, the opposite of all these functions.